If you ever look, there's a couple of movies, Cocaine Cowboys 1, and there's like the Reloaded version is the best one. But like basically, like the reason like a show like Miami Vice happened is because all of the like everybody in America was doing cocaine in the 80s, right? Like it was a huge deal. Definitely check out Cocaine Cowboys. It's really interesting.
And then don't forget, after that, same director came out with Viking and Vikings. Come on, waka waka.
No, you get the Gordo treatment for that one.
That was funny. It was funny.
If you have to tell
I mean,
us.
everyone loves alliteration, but that needs to work.
That one worked. It worked. Cocaine Cowboys, Viking and Vikings. That doesn't work.
I was going to add one, but I saw the treatment you got, and I'm
Oh,
just
no,
holding my
please,
tongue.
Gordo.
Well, now
I
you got
implore
it.
you. Please, what were you going to say?
Methamphetamine Martians.
Now does mine sound funny?
No.
No, I hate you both now. I just hate you both equally.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Strangers with Candy. Strangers with Candy went 30 episodes over 3 seasons on Comedy Central. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Old Habits, New Beginnings, originally airing April 7th, 1999. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, all the boys, Nick, Gordo, Joe, and Ferg. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
Hey,
Hello.
Full strength.
And a photograph of me dedicating it.
Oh, Joe, you're so quirky with your Polaroid.
I try to do a nice thing and fuck you, Ferg.
No, I like the joke. Good for you.
I liked it.
I hope the audio comes through enough for that visual gag Joe went with for the audio podcast.
No, that was pretty loud.
I think the noise of the Instamax camera will.
Yeah, I
will
think it
pick
was
up.
loud enough. I heard it at least. So real quick, everyone, Strangers with Candy,
Oh, and it's a terrible photo. It's coming through. It's a bad photo.
number 4 in our back to school month that we're doing all for the month of September. So far, Mr. Iglesias, AP Bio, Abbott Elementary. Now this one, our 4th and final for September. Strangers with Candy, we wanted to do all school-based episodes for the month. This show I have not seen since it was originally on television, and even then I didn't watch a lot of it. It wasn't like a show I watched much of, but how about you guys?
I vividly remember. So I obviously know what the show is. I did not like this show as a younger person. I just remember always changing the channel it was on. It was too weird for me at that age, I think. And I didn't enjoy it. I always switched away.
I remember really enjoying it when it was new, but thinking it was very weird as well. And I saw the movie in the theater. What was it, 2006? The prequel movie?
Yeah, it was a bit later on, yeah.
Yeah, a few years later. But I remember like enough liking it that I saw it in the Harvard Square Theater, RIP.
I was gonna say, did I get was that like just in like some small theaters with like, that didn't get like a big theatrical run or anything, right?
I mean, that was a Lowe's, but it was like, that was the Lowe's in Boston that played like art films too. That's where I saw the Notorious Betty Page. They'd play just like indie movies, but like
Okay.
not low budget or whatever. But I mean, enough that I liked it that I saw the movie, which I don't remember any of, but I remember enjoying it at the time, I guess.
I remember seeing it. I remember not liking it, like at all.
I remember she just kind of creeped me out. Like I
Yeah.
saw her and I was like, ew. Like I don't
It
want
was
to watch
also
her.
like, too, we have to remember, when did this come out?
99.
99, yeah.
Yeah,
been
so like
14-ish?
we were younger and like that was kind of bedtime.
It's funny because like to watch this now and we see like the main actress, like Amy Sedaris, she was 38 when this came out. And we're, that's like
Yeah.
our current age. So, but she's
Right.
like made up to look older in this episode. So even watching it now, I don't feel like I'm looking at someone who's my age.
I'm a big Amy Sedaris fan, I will say. Amy Sedaris is a very pretty woman. They did such a good job.
I think she did a good job with like the way she like molded her face. It must have
Yeah,
been.
she sticks her teeth out.
The
Yeah.
overbite
Look weird.
really does it. Yeah, the girl Poppy does the impression of her, and all she has to do is the overbite and like the hunch. It makes it so much, but like a great job. Like when you be like a pretty, like a very good looking woman or whatever, and like transfer yourself into looking like this crazy person. Like it's just very good acting.
Well, you look like over 20 years later, and she was just in Clerks 3, and she looks younger than she looks in this episode.
She looks great. At Home with Amy Sedaris, which ran for a few seasons, we watched every episode of, was very funny. I mean, like, everything she pops up in, she's still great, she's still funny, and yeah, she looks younger now than the character of Jerri Blank looked then.
Now, Joe, do you remember in the movie, did they explain why she's fucking allowed to go back to school? Because they don't explain it in this episode, and it really bothered me.
I can't remember, and I feel like they must have, because it was a prequel. That came out in 2006, so that was, 17 years ago? It's washed my memory a little bit. I think it was a bad date also, so that doesn't help the scenario either. I'm sure the popcorn was good. I'm sure I had a very large Pepsi, but I don't remember the plot of it at all.
Yeah, it just seems weird that she would be allowed to go back to high school.
Unless
Or
her
Billy
dad was a
Madison-esque.
rich hotel owner or something like that.
It's to show her dad that she's not a fool.
Well, I guess, my brain is broken, because I remembered her being in, a coma and coming out of it and being able to go, but that's not the plot at all. So,
No, her dad's in the
No.
coma.
Basically, yeah, she just went through recovery and stuff after being like an addict.
I magically am allowed to go back to school.
There's also a crazy timeline thing where she mentions it too, where she's like, I love that she says I've been a teenage runaway for 30 years. I think it's the funniest line said in this whole episode. The joke of being a teenage runaway at 42 still is so fucking funny.
So yeah, and a couple things I always like to check the ratings. This one's weird, so take these numbers with a grain of salt because...
Well, now we know that Rotten Tomatoes is a lot of grains of salt.
Well, yeah, so Rotten Tomatoes had no critic score, but the audience score is a perfect 100%. But when you look at when you break down episode specific and season specific, it doesn't have a lot of ratings. So I think just a few people physically put a rating on it. And I think one bad grade would knock this way down. I don't think there's that many ratings to get the percentage.
I want to be the one to do that.
I would say the
Me
people who
too.
love this show wholeheartedly. A listener of our show reached out to me today and literally said, anybody who doesn't greenlight this, she is going to hunt down and kill. So I just want to put that out there. That's in the ether for everyone to be aware of. The fans of the show who love it are very big fans. I'm a fan of this show. I enjoyed it watching it growing up. It's very interesting watching it now, though, with this many years removed from it.
Yeah, again, I haven't really watched it since it was on television in its original run, so it was very interesting to go back. Also, IMDb 8.1 was the average rating for the show.
That's a little
How?
high. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can already see where this is going. Nick is the one holdout, I think.
Well, it's very high, but I would say it's one of those things, too, where shows like this that aren't modern are only being looked back at by fans of the show.
Okay, fair enough.
That is a good point, yeah.
So you're not having the detractors aren't going back and being like, oh, I forgot how much I hated Strangers with Candy. Let me check out the Rotten Tomatoes.
I kind of want to ask, my nephew is 13, right? So he's right around the same age we would have been when this came out. I would love to ask him, be like, hey, watch the first episode of this and tell me what you think with no knowledge of it. That would be a very interesting way to see if it held up the way... Yeah, because again, people who are our generation who loved it are still loving it, but I don't know if it'll hold up to somebody now who knows what lo-fi music is or whatever.
You know what's crazy is I didn't realize Stephen Colbert was in this show.
Me too.
I didn't either,
again, having not watched it since then, I didn't really know who he was in 99.
Yeah.
Was Michael Ian Black in this show?
No, I think you're thinking of Viva Variety.
That's a very different show.
I wish we could watch
But they were
that.
on at the same time. That was the same block on
Johnny Blue Jeans.
Viva Variety.
Miss Pac-Man.
This is after Kids in the Hall?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I get similar vibes from it too. I don't know why. There's multiple shows that give me Kids
Adults
in
in
the
a
Hall
school
vibes.
setting.
Older adults playing characters who are there. Yeah. And this is also, again, we were in high school, and I feel like there's a weird time warp. When you're in high school, everything exists in a weird bubble. And the things before it and the things right after it are also in a weird bubble. So I think that we sometimes don't think we think of this and the shows around it differently, even if it was 3 or 4 years earlier. I think of this the same way I think of Mad TV, if that makes sense.
And I also want to bring up real quick that our social medias, S1E1pod.com is where you can find all our links to find everywhere we can listen to us, our socials, everything like that. Instagram and the app formerly known as Twitter, now X. Both of those, S1E1 pod. Hit us up on those. We'd like to talk to you guys, find out shows you want us to cover, general chit-chat. Let us know what you think of the show. We like talking to you guys. Yeah, I mean, unless you guys have anything else to say, I think we should like get into the meat and potatoes of the episode here.
Let's do it.
So we start off like in the gymnasium of this school. And so this show is shot it's modeled after school specials. And it's a single camera shoot. So it's not your kind of typical sitcom, which I thought it was. Like, I guess my memory just wasn't good enough. So I kind of thought it was more standard sitcom shot.
I did too, actually.
Yeah, me too.
And we have some sort of an officer doing like a presentation in the gym. And it's all about like an anti-drug thing. And he has this little like mini like tin of like every drug that, possible, and just kind of showing the kids what it is. And there's going to be a film that he's going to show all of them on the dangers of drugs.
I like how he turns on the projector and then the movie is him turning on the projector.
Him going back to it, yeah.
Yes.
This actor too, Mitch Rouse, he's in a 3-episode story arc of Norm, which we just covered.
Oh, interesting. I was going to say, this reminded me a lot of like the Troy McClure movies from the Simpsons.
Where they do the Troy McClure movies in school.
Yeah.
Blood on the Asphalt. Yeah, all those Troy McClure movies, yeah.
I also thought it was funny that this anti-drug video, which was also supposed to be like drug-related deaths, is the name of the film. And it's just a bunch of just death videos that have nothing to do with drugs. It's just all accidents.
It's a trapeze artist and a tiger attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all on drugs.
Yeah, maybe the guy was on peyote as the tiger attacked him, but I don't know if it's a drug-related death.
But one thing I want to point out too that we don't talk about is that when they cut to the beginning of this, it's just a bunch of teenagers in a crowd, like sitting on the bleachers of a school, and then it just doesn't say anything. It just passes over a woman who's clearly way older than them, but doesn't hang the shot on her, which I really appreciate. So it kind of like fucks with your head. If you'd never seen this show and didn't know what it was about, you'd just be like, wait, what was that?
Yeah.
I kind of got the vibe that she was a teacher. I know what you're saying, but like she could have been like a teacher.
That's true too. It could have gone both ways, yeah.
And while they're all watching this video is when we get the main character, Jerri. She kind of like turns to camera and she introduces herself. Just to paraphrase a little bit, she tells you her name's Jerri Blank. She's 46 years old and she's a high school freshman. And she was a teenage runaway. She was, as she says, a boozer, a user, and a loser. And now she's like cleaned up and she's back to school. She's living at home again. And she also says she's discovering all sorts of things about her body.
Which is awesome because like that's a joke about menopause, I think, right?
I don't know. Every day my body has something new to show me. My back hurts. My hip hurts. Knees
She does
hurt.
reference her uterus a lot.
Yeah, her ears getting scraped, I think is one thing they say.
Ew.
How's your uterus, Gordo?
Sandy.
Okay.
A lot of Polish beaches where you're at recently? What are you doing? Also, if nobody knows the backstory of us, it sounds like I'm saying some like bad 80s racist joke, but like Gordo's fifth the Polish beach. Like you can't say Polish without it sounding like you're set up to a joke. Gordo was just in Poland before anyone gets mad at me.
Was physically there, yes.
Yeah, physically his body was in Poland, apparently in a very sandy part.
I was.
You were making a Polak joke, you racist bastard. Everyone canceled Joe.
He got sand in his Krakow?
That was good. Okay.
For a second, nobody did any response, not happy or upset, and I was like, oh shit, did I cross the line? Did I say something cancelable? Oh shit, what did I do?
No, I think it just took us a minute.
Delete.
There's Jerry's last name is Blank. Did you guys read why it's Jerri Blank?
No.
So when they made the script, they didn't have like a name for the character yet, a full name. So it was Jerry, and then it was literally a blank space. It was like just underscore, like a bunch of underscores.
Oh,
Like an
love that.
unfilled ad-libs.
I kind of thought that, but that's funny.
We'll bring it up later, and I bet you guys can guess who. There's another character that basically was named in a similar fashion.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I know exactly who it is.
We'll talk about it later. But so literally, it just said Jerry with an underscore. It was left blank until they could think of a name. Like, just call her Jerri Blank.
I think it works. It's better than being like, this is Jerry Oldfella. Like,
Yeah, Geraldine Smith or whatever. I do like, though, that one thing they had to do, because, like, this is 1999, right? Like, where you can't access all of this stuff anymore. They had to go to the Museum of Television, which was at that point, and still is, but, like, at that point, much different, an archive of all this different stuff that you could actually watch. almost like microfiche, right? Like, so they went to watch all of the Scott
Got a robotic
Baio-
fish.
Yeah, the robotic fish and the
They're
silverfish.
fishy,
Watch out for
fishy,
them.
fishy.
They're very fast. Fishy, fishy.
I am the microfiche.
But they watched all of the Scott Baio after school specials
I saw that.
to get the vibe for this movie, which I love. Scott Baio, who we've covered a couple times.
Once?
Charles in Charge, we did Happy Days, but he wasn't in the original, like the first
We did Happy
episode.
Days and Arrested Development, which he shows up in later, but 3 shows he's in.
And then eventually, I'm sure we'll do Joni Loves Chachi.
I would love to do Jonah Loves Chachi.
Why?
Because it's good, and because Joni loved Chachi.
Did Chachi
I'm a little
really
sad
love
there wasn't a
Joni?
Pinky Tuscadero movie, or a TV show.
From that scene, we get into the actual intro of the show, which I thought was, I know that like a lot of this is satirical. I don't know if this intro was the vibe of the satire they were going for, though.
I appreciate the sepia tone, though. It's basically just instrumental, sort of like do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and it shows all the background footage, like sepia toned or whatever, and then it shows all the characters in color above it.
Yeah, it is a
So-
very bland intro.
It is very bland.
not one of the more fun ones you'll ever see.
No, almost blank.
I would have went with like a parody of 21 Jump Street or something like that.
I'm thinking Schoolhouse Rock almost. Like they could have did something a little funny, so maybe a little animated.
I like Ferg's idea though of 21 Jump Street because you could have shown Jerri like when she was a sex worker and like the different things. A cartoon would have worked well too because like you usually can do like the time jumps well in a cartoon.
Kind of show her history, like almost
Yeah.
like the nannies, like how you kind of see the backstory. What gets
Yes,
into them.
exactly. This is the nanny
that
would have been
fake
perfect.
ass backstory and the nanny.
I'm back in high school, Mr. Sheffield.
Or like Aliens in the Family.
Yeah.
A far better, more recent example.
Are you saying? Hold on. Both episodes you can go back and listen. We covered Aliens in the Family. We covered the nanny. Ferg, are you saying that you liked Aliens in the Family more than the nanny?
I'm saying it's a better example because we just covered it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all.
Okay.
Okay, I was gonna say otherwise them's fighting words because holy cow, does nobody want to see the beginning of Aliens in the Family?
So the next scene, we're in Mr. Noblet's class. Is that his name, Noblet?
Noblet.
That's the way I read it. Yep.
And that's Stephen Colbert. And yeah, it's funny now because same boat. I saw this. I'm like, Stephen Colbert's in this episode, or he's in the whole show. He's like one of the like main writers and everything of the show. He also, I don't know if you saw, he had already like just started with the Daily Show right when this was coming out too. But
Crazy.
because he was more involved with this show, they let him do like a condensed Daily Show schedule. So he did less on that to focus on this one because they're both Comedy Central properties.
Oh,
It's kind of the
interesting.
best 90s ever where he was doing SNL stuff. Like he's Ace in Ace and Gary, the ambiguously gay duo. He's a writer and actor on the Dana Carvey show. Then he pops into this and then he does the Daily Show. Like what a weird few years where like he became so present in all of our lives.
I don't think I'm actually positive. I didn't know that he was Ace from the ambiguously gay duo.
Neither did I.
Oh, really? He's Ace and Steve Carell's Gary.
I had no idea.
Really?
I had no idea.
Wait, really? Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well known.
Yeah, it's very well known.
But it hasn't, like, I was watching that 20 something years ago, so I wasn't hyper aware of who either of them really were at the time.
I'll say this: if I didn't know it was Steve Carell from looking it up, I wouldn't have known it was. I wouldn't have known Steve Colbert.
Oh, at the time I didn't know who they were, no. But like later on, yeah, you find out.
It's just not one of those, like, I remember it, but I don't revisit it, so it wouldn't flag me. Maybe if I was to watch one now, I would hear it, but.
One of the great missed opportunities in the world we were going to get is they were going to do an ambiguously gay duo movie, and they were going to have two, like, really, like, well-built, like, buff guys play Ace and Gary, but then have Stephen Colbert and
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell do the voices still, and just overdub them. And it was going to be written by, like, all of them with Robert Smigel, and then eventually just, like, fell apart because of other stuff. Like, how funny would that be?
We were gonna do it, and then it's Pat bombed, so we don't want to make any more.
Never finished a whole carton of OJ. It's like, all right, never mind. We're not doing this anymore.
What an
It's Pat.
awful movie.
Okay, I will say this, though. It's Pat is a better movie than the Stuart Smalley movie. This was a tough time for SNL movies.
I like the It's Pat movie. I used to rent it
It's
from the
Pat
library.
is hilarious.
No, I like
No,
It's
it's
Pat.
Go back and
not.
watch it. Yes, it is.
No.
That
the best
time of
movie
the
for-
month again.
Bills.
Bills! Although Coneheads is the best of that crop
no-
of that year's movies.
No doubt.
Pretty
Well, I
cheap.
think
Conehead.
I think box office alone will tell you that. There's not like much debate there.
I would say what Wayne's World's the most successful.
Blues Brothers
Yeah, I
might
would say
be.
that.
Yeah, Blues
Of all
Brothers.
time, I mean, yeah.
I'd say Blues Brothers, then
Wayne's World
World
second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
The ladies' man.
And then probably Coneheads. And then Superstar is very low in the list too.
I bought you these flowers. They're looking real plastic, but they smell real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How fucking broken all of our brains are from the 90s. It is so stupid. Yeah. That disgusts the ladies, man.
I finished my Cavassier.
My Cavassier.
Thanks, Satan, we never got a Brian Fellows movie. Otherwise, I would not want to live in this world anymore.
So back in this classroom, they're all kind of just doing like their presentations. We have one girl go up first, Poppy, and Jerry's next, and she starts by saying, you know, how history's taught us many things, but then her examples are all about like her drug use and being thrown by a horse.
Also, when Poppy walks by, Jerry, like, clearly checks out her ass. So you get, like, that immediately from her.
Was this basically, am I to assume Jerry's just kind of using her like AA speech and just using that as like to get through with like her school project?
I didn't realize it, but that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Her AA or NA speech, yeah.
Yeah, because this was supposed to be a report on Brazil. And I don't think
Yeah.
her doing cocaine has anything to do with that.
She mentions goofballs here before, too. And, like, I remember from The Simpsons being, or, like, other shows when we were kids being like, he's all cranked up on goofballs. I looked up what goofballs actually is, and it's combining meth and heroin. And that sounds like the absolute worst recipe of any two things you could ever mix together.
Yeah,
So stay
for real.
away from goofballs.
That does not sound goofy.
A goofy movie?
I wish.
I've always preferred just meth.
I mean, to be fair, I'd rather be up than down. This actor, too, Ferg, I know you were watching Oz. Did you finish Oz?
Yeah, a long time ago.
You know when Vern Schlesinger's son gets the girl pregnant and has the grandkid and he stops being a Nazi for a little bit so he can be like, super stoked to be a granddad? The girl, that's Poppy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is Oz Corner. Continue.
So Jerry also uses this as an opportunity, since she's in front of the class, to remind everyone that she's having a party and seeing if anyone's going to be attending on Friday night. Nobody responds. It's like, all right, it's cool. You can tell me later. And tells everyone that they're going to be serving hot fruit.
Hot fruit.
I actually lost it at this.
I laughed so
Because-
hard at this.
I was like, did she just say hot fruit as like a reason to come? Like, that's so fucking weird. But
I
I,
know
thought
she-
that was
I mean, you add some
great.
sugar and it's just basically pie filling.
Right, if you're like,
Be
hot
true.
apples, like, no, but like, in a crust, you're like, ooh, sure.
I feel
Well,
like
no,
in
there's a-
reality, she would have a lot of friends, though, because they're high school kids and she can get them beer.
I was just
Thank
going
you
to say
for-
that.
Yeah.
I thought that
I
this
thought the same
entire
thing.
episode, the entire episode, which I never thought of when I was 14, watching this now, was like, she would be everybody's best friend. I got a job once when I was like 24. It was just like a job to take up some time in between a job I got fired from. And the first day, 3 people walked up to me like, hey, nice to meet you. Can you buy us beer after work? And I was like, oh, god damn it. Like, that's how kids think. I bought them all beer and I quit that job, but...
With all the profits.
No, I'm not a dickhead. I did not charge them anything. I was like, here's your change, and don't tell anybody I bought you a bunch of beer, I guess? I don't know. Good first day. It was the first day, by the way, also. I also, no, I didn't fire. I quit that job because one day I went to get a beer on my break because I did not give a shit about this job.
And
it
those
was like
kids drank it all?
It was a closing shift at a fucking retail store in between real person jobs, but my company had closed and moved away. I just needed something to kill some time. And the bar I went to was like, our card machine's down. And I was like, what do you suggest I do? And he was like, well, you could come back later and pay me, or you can just keep drinking until the card machine comes back up and I'll charge you for half. And I was like, that sounds like the plan. And I showed up like 2.5 hours late for my fucking break, clearly drunk. And my boss looked at me and was like, oh, fuck, you don't give a fuck. I don't know what to do. I was like, yeah, man, I don't give a shit. And just like kind of like dealt with the rest of the night.
Hey,
and went on.
Martini?
It's like, I don't know, man. Sorry. Everyone here's 18. I give 0 fucks.
As FYI, S1E1 does not agree with Joe in the fact that a retail job is not for real people.
We also don't condone selling alcohol to children.
Oh, yeah, I just like correct myself a lot of times there.
Yeah. In general, we don't agree with anything you said in the last 5 minutes.
No.
You know, real people in between my real people jobs.
Well, when you're 25 and you get stuck for 2 months having to work at an Urban Outfitters to make some money in between your next job, and you're working with a bunch of 18-year-olds who want to buy you beer, it doesn't feel like a real job. I think it's fair.
But they were buying you beer.
No, I was buying them beer illegally. Fuck. No, it wasn't. Move on.
Now we know why the cop cars are going by your house.
We got them, boys.
I live in a different state now. They can't catch me.
So class is getting out and everyone's leaving, and the teacher asks Jerri to stay by for a second so he can talk to her. And he asks if she has a minute. It's like, oh, well, I got to leave early. She's having her uterus scraped. She's like, I brought a note. He's like, I know. I read the note.
We all saw the
read
note.
I saw the note.
He says that he's a little concerned with this party talk. This is, again, keep in mind that they're doing, this is really satire and trying to be back to after school, like, programming.
It's real quick here, too. The way they fucking make this so weird is he tells them they have to read 8 chapters of the book before the next day, which is like the perfect amount to be like too much, but not so crazy. I think it's like a fun little joke to throw in there.
He tells her that she should be focused less on this party and more on her grades because as it stands right now, she's on pace to fail. She's like, it's only the 3rd day of class. He's like, yeah, but according to my calculations, and then they cut to him just like
mashing his knuckles
just
onto
like
a
loose knuckle
typewriter.
hitting this calculator, like such an odd shot. Which
It's funny, of all the weird over the top shit on this show, that's the one thing that really bothered me. I was like, no, that's too much.
yeah.
Even though it's Steve Carell and it's 90s Comedy Central, it's too much for you.
I feel like that's a Stephen Colbert thing. Like, I feel like he was the one who came up with okay, get this shot real quick, and he just mashed his knuckles on the typewriter.
I mean, he's also one of the writers and creators, so like he had a lot of say in this, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, she's basically saying, like, if I don't graduate by the time I'm 50, I'm going to be the laughing stock of Flat Point High. And also mentions that the whole reason she's having this party is to make some friends. But his advice to her is like, no one makes friends with the failure.
It's true. Joe did not have any friends while he was working that lowly retail job.
You really hit a sore spot with Nick.
And Nick's mad right now. Nick, when was the last time you worked retail?
I've literally never worked retail.
Yeah, fuck you, Nick. Jesus Christ, we're like a million
I'm
retail
supporting
jobs.
the people who do work retail.
I was going to say, I
though.
was pretty sure Joe was about to double down on that and piss people off even more.
I've worked retail. I've unloaded trucks. I've put up garage doors. I've done a lot of jobs. I'm a man of the people.
I just remember when Jay worked at Old Navy and Joe was like, peasant.
It was like, peasant, you don't smell like gasoline from pumping gas all day? How fucking dare you?
Oh, retail. As he's washing the windows.
Yes, I lit my shoe on fire smoking by accident an hour ago. Pretty cool working at the food court, right?
So after that scene, we're over at the lockers. And she has like this sign up sheet on her. It's so sad in a way. She has like this like big sign up sheet for like who's gonna attend
that's
my
what they
party?
want you to feel though.
But they're smart because I genuinely felt bad.
Yeah, and she's talking to the girl Poppy, the one from class earlier, and she's just being so mean to her. But like, it's tricky, right? On one hand, she's like trying to hang out with her, asking her if she's gonna go to the party. Poppy's not interested, but also like she's a 40-something-year-old woman in high school. And
Asking
like,
a 17-year-old girl.
Yeah, like, why would she be hanging out with her? That'd be weird. So I can understand why this girl's
To
like,
buy
no,
her
I don't want to
booze.
hang out with you.
That's it.
Maybe this is why Ferg thought that she was in a coma, because she's not acting her age. I mean, I get that she's in high school, but she's not acting her age. It's like she
this is like a fever coma
had a
dream.
skip. Right, exactly, yeah.
Like this ends at the end and she's in a snow globe like St. Elsewhere.
She's like an arrested development here. That's the correct term.
It is. It was just confusing for a second because there's also a sitcom called that, which is also what we cover. So I was like waiting for you to be like, is he making a joke or is he using the term?
No. I mean, I was actually using the psychological name for that.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think she's in Arrested Development. I think she lived her life, and she was a sex worker and a drug addict for 30 years. I think she's not in Arrested Development. I think she's mentally ill and trying to relive her youth. I think that's different, if that makes sense.
We'd know that if they fucking explained how she's able to go back to school. But
Yeah.
they don't.
That is the one thing where you're like, that's a glaring omission. Like, Billy Madison came up before this and did explain it at least.
But like, where are her adult friends? Like,
Right?
from before she went back to school.
Yeah, that's not a world where, I mean, if you're trying to clean up from drugs and prostitution, you're starting over. You don't bring anyone from the past with you, so.
Yeah.
You're not like, hey, I can't shake my wee-wee anymore.
She's friends with this kid, Orlando, the kid that's at the lockers with her.
Orlando, I love looking at what people do, and a show like this, too, it was in the 90s, I'm like, there's a lot of older people in this show, I'm like, somebody was in Mantis. Nobody was in Mantis. But Orlando has like 6 acting roles, one of which is in the sitcom Whoopi. So, R.I.P. Whoopi.
I'm sure we'll cover Whoopi at some point in time.
In memoriam.
She's gonna die one day, and we're all gonna like the group chat. She's gonna be like, I don't know what to say right now. Like, you can't make this joke
You
anymore.
see everyone that knows us is eagerly waiting for our response. We just don't do anything.
Don't
Have we ever explained this on the podcast?
No,
No.
because it's one of those things, like a lot of things we've done, that doesn't paint us in the right light.
I don't know. This one's kind of kitschy.
You know when something's funny to you and you explain it, you go, "Oh, I can see how you don't find this funny though."
Yeah.
I will say this, though. We have a lot of listeners who've listened since the beginning, and thank you guys so much. It's amazing. And I'm sure they're probably confused as to why we constantly bring up Whoopi, and then we all say R.I.P., so maybe it's worth mentioning.
I think it's worth mentioning.
One of you want to explain it?
Well, to really get into it, back in the days of AIM, when people had away messages, whenever a celebrity would die, you'd see RIP that celebrity. So for one day, we all just put in RIP Whoopi Goldberg. And it like took off.
I don't even remember that part of it, but that
Neither
checks
do
I
out.
don't either. I remember it on Facebook only.
No, this was before Facebook.
We've been doing this for like 20 plus years, yeah.
Ferg, we all came to your house that night for, I'm guessing it was Raw, probably Monday.
Yeah, I would think so.
And that's when you could change Wikipedia very easily.
Oh my
So-
God, that's
Yes,
right. We
that's
said she
right.
died.
Gee, Nick, start
That
that
was
over
before
again.
it
bud.
was even cool.
Start that part over again. I wasn't including that part purposely.
Oh,
He can't. I mean, we're in it now, boys. Like,
No, we're not, man.
just get it over with.
You're gonna get us canceled by the Strangers with Candy audience. What are you doing?
this is 20 plus years ago. I just want to remind everyone. Yeah, I mean, also even now, every once in a while, I think one of us will toss up like an RIP Whoopi, like on Facebook or something.
It's funny because the people we've been friends with on Facebook for like the longest time would be like, "Shut the fuck up! Like, enough already."
But you always get someone.
15
and you,
years
like,
of this shit.
you always get someone who like instantly Googles it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the thing that was good about the AIM days is like people didn't look things up as quite as much. You do that these
Couldn't.
days. People will instantly Google Whoopi Goldberg to see the death thing so they can send it to their friends.
Right.
No, because they'd look it up and then they'd see Wikipedia.
Said it again.
Anyway, it was on Wikipedia for about 3 minutes, but the beautiful thing we found out back then was Wikipedia had archive logs, so you could just print out that was a change that was there forever. I don't know if you still, I mean, you probably still can, but it's probably changed a billion times since then.
Yeah, me.
People going
Very
in, putting
difficult.
anecdotes about the movie Burglar or whatever, I'm sure.
What's the movie with her and the Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Oh, is it something Jones?
No, you're thinking of Sister Act.
No, my brain is thinking of Tammy and the T-Rex, which is a very different movie.
Theodore Rex.
Theodore Rex, thank
She's
you.
working with like Earl Sinclair.
Yeah, basically Earl
Yes.
Sinclair.
Who could forget that 1995 classic?
Theodore Rex.
What's the one? I think she followed it up also with the movie where she was like a NBA basketball coach. She had a tough few years in the 90s. And then she died. And miraculously was reborn. She is our
But not
Jesus.
before she farted on The View.
Wait, is that a thing?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
farted on it, yeah.
She farted on The View?
Yeah, you remember? And she was like, yeah, that was me. But that was also the exact same time where she was the spokesperson for leak pads for like if you dripped pee all day and needed a pad in your underwear. So like she was at a point where she didn't give a shit about that anymore.
I think after she farted verbatim, she was like, "Oh, little frog slipped out there."
Yeah, like you got something funny, like mouse on a motor scooter or whatever. Like you gotta
Somebody
like
step
just
on a
let it
duck.
out.
we've gone over this before. We definitely have, as I say it, this group is definitely split up into Team Fart and Team Cum. I will say, as a proud member of Team Cum,
TCB, baby. Taking come of business.
that should be the first merch shirts.
The TCB, the Elvis TCB. This is taking come of business.
But
Working
no.
overtime.
A veto.
But as someone who
Yeah.
typically does not find fart humor to be very funny at all, I do remember and think it's hilarious that Whoopi Goldberg farted on television.
That's the problem with those kind of microphones. They pick up everything.
Oh yeah.
To cycle all this back, this kid Orlando that she's talking to, it's like I'm under the impression that it's like her only friend in school, but he can't have lunch with her, and then she just like makes fun of him. She like calls him a pan-faced chimp and like does like a weird.
I was like, where do you get off?
And she calls him a chimp and says, I'll peel my own banana.
Yeah.
Leaves.
But then you get that quick cutaway afterwards of her just alone in the cafeteria eating.
Again, very sad. We never ate alone, but
No, we're very lucky that we were the worst people ever who nobody liked, but we all had each other.
A large
It's
group of
important.
them. We were
Yeah,
very
we had a
large
big group of like the worst people who like at least had each other.
Speak for yourself. I was beloved.
We were, I mean, like, again, not that we need to explain ourselves. Our group was pretty big in high school. I wouldn't say we were like, I feel like it's being painted like, at least it was just the five of us. Like, no, we had a pretty big group back then.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And like if, whatever, like, but that's the important thing is like you find your, what do they say? What's like that fucking thing that's in now? Like,
Tribe?
you find your tribe. You find your tribe. Yeah.
After lunch, he's meeting up with the teacher, Mr. Jellyneck. Actually, and I should mention too, the actor who plays Mr. Jellyneck, him, Jerri, and Stephen Colbert, like they're like the main creators and writers behind the show, the three of them.
Yeah, they were all together on a show called Exit 57, which was like a Comedy Central sketch comedy show that lasted for one season before they did this, which is kind of weird that like we talk about this all the time on this show where like these channels all have streaming whatever. Like there was so much interesting stuff. I think about all the time. Comedy Central had a show called Make Me Laugh. Do you guys remember that?
I remember
don't.
Make Me
Vaguely.
Laugh.
No.
I remember Make Me Laugh. It was like almost like a Who's Line style game show.
Right, but you put a person in a chair and then you'd get comedians and they would give you 30 seconds and they'd just do jokes in your face and try to make you laugh. And the longer you didn't laugh, the more money you made. And I remember, God, what's his name? He was a Boston comedian.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr. Yeah.
Kevin Meaney?
Who?
I think it was Kevin Meaney. He passed away a couple years ago. He was you'd know if you saw him. He was a pretty funny Boston comedian or whatever, but at one point he was like, are you not going to laugh at me? And then he just pulled out a bunch of rope that was all torn up and he said, "Frayed not." And the guy that couldn't handle himself. And I laughed so hard. To this day, I think about that joke all the time. Like, "Frayed not" is such a good prop humor joke.
He's not joking. He made that joke when we were in high school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
stuck
remember
with
it,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. I never claimed it was my own though. I'm not a thief.
So, anyways, while she's going into Jellyneck's classroom, he's finishing up a painting he's doing for Drug Awareness Week, the Battle of Miami, which is Columbus fighting the Pilgrims.
The joke of that's so funny because he's doing a drug awareness joke, so he's clearly doing like a riff on the Cocaine Cowboys and all of like the 80s Miami Vice stuff that was going on, but it's Columbus. Like, what is happening?
I'm glad you get that. Cause
Yeah, I didn't think
get
that
it.
was very clear.
yeah, I didn't get it either.
Oh yeah, so if you ever look, there's a couple movies, Cocaine Cowboys 1, and there's like the Reloaded version is the best one, but like basically like the reason like a show like Miami Vice happened is because all of the like everybody in America was doing cocaine in the 80s, right? Like it was a
Yeah.
huge deal, and all of the cocaine came in through Miami. So there were all these crazy drug cartels in Miami, and there was like shootouts every week, like at like mini malls and in everywhere.
Yeah, we talked
you
about
can
this on the
imagine.
Golden Girls episode, actually.
Yeah, it was like a really weird time in Florida and in the U.S. history. Definitely check out Cocaine Cowboys. It's really interesting. But like it was literally considered like don't go to Florida because you might get shot in the middle of like a cocaine deal. And that's pretty much what I've seen every episode of Miami Vice. And there is a Miami Vice episode reference coming up in this episode later. But that's basically the sort of impetus of the show. That's what was going on.
And then don't forget after that, same director came out with Viking and Vikings. Come on, waka waka.
No, you get the Gordo treatment for that one.
That was funny. It was funny.
If you have to tell
I mean,
us.
everyone loves alliteration, but that needs to work.
That one worked. It worked. Cocaine Cowboys, Vicodin Vikings. That doesn't work.
I was gonna add one, but I saw the treatment you got, and I'm
Oh,
just
no,
holding my
please,
tongue.
Gordo.
Well, now
I
you got
implore
it.
you. Please, what were you going to say?
Methamphetamine Martians.
Now does mine sound funny?
No.
No, I hate you both now. I just hate you both equally.
Well, anyways, Jerry's talking to this teacher who's like the art teacher. He's kind of a weird dude. But talking about how she's an outsider and she's having a hard time making friends. His initial response is, really? You have such a beautiful brother. Okay.
I do love that, though, because it's like a good foreshadowing to set up that, like, we'll obviously meet his brother, right? Her brother.
Yeah. He's trying to give her advice and saying that, she's, a joy to be around and stuff like that. And that she kind of has to kind of embrace the things that make her unique. And says, just go with what you know. That's the big advice to her.
Yeah, I didn't get that this was a satire of after-school specials. And I was like, what the fuck is going on with this?
If you don't know that, because I feel like us as kids, like, watching it as a kid, I didn't
watch it
that
as a
up.
kid.
like, I'm saying, but as a kid when watching it, like, you don't know that now, but imagine trying to watch that as 20 years ago. Like, it's harder to grasp that. Knowing it makes it funnier, but not knowing it, especially back then, was very confusing.
After our Merry Happy Whatever episode, I was worried you guys didn't know what satire was. I'm glad you get it now, though.
No, we knew. We knew. And when we see it, we identify it.
I'm just so sad that Jerry Lee Lewis brought himself so low to do a TV show like that.
Yeah, so to go back to the Merry Happy Whatever episode we did for Christmas this past year, Ferg still under the belief that it's a satirical show, which it very much was not. It was just a bad show. But you can go back and listen to our episode, watch the actual episode of the show on Netflix, decide for yourself.
I wouldn't
Hit us
suggest
up.
watching the actual episode.
As someone who greenlit it, I wouldn't suggest watching the episode. You can watch our episode, though, or listen to our episode.
It was very Christmassy, though. There's a lot of green and red lights there.
Do you love Christmas? Listen to our episode.
Jerry makes it back over to her locker, and the sign-up sheet she has for a party, people have written loser all over, and obviously she tears that all down from her locker, very upset, opens it up so she can talk to her one true friend, her turtle Shelly, that's in the top part of her locker.
I do appreciate this, where she just keeps clearly hammering in, like, I would be so lost if anything ever happened to you, Shelly. We're like, I like how heavy-handed it is.
Yeah, really foreshadowing.
It's very deliberate, so you know something is going to happen to this turtle later on.
I didn't like it because it stressed me out. I'm like, I don't want something to happen to the turtle.
Yeah.
It's like frog baseball in the first Beavis and Butthead, or poor Kevin in The Office when he tries to rebuild the turtle.
Oh, that was so sad. And then after her turtle interaction, she heads over to the bathroom, and you have like that girl Poppy and a couple other girls just in there. She walks in to hear these girls already like just making fun of her unknowingly that she's there.
And doing the overbite.
It's sad. They're also making fun of the hot fruit thing. So I'm glad that it's acknowledged that that's a weird thing.
Yeah, that's not just something normal in this universe.
Right.
Yeah. I like how she tries to befriend them with making drugs for them.
If you know how to make drugs.
That's after she tries to take the advice of the teacher and goes with what she knows, but what she knows is old people things.
Well, they eventually settle on drugs, but her first
Hold on,
offer was like,
I want a quick timeout. You just said that what she knows is old people things, and she invites them to go to a cockfight. Are you trying to tell me that going to a cockfight is an old person behavior?
No, as soon as I got old, first thing I went to was a cockfight.
Little Yeti Seinfeld.
he was so upset when he saw chickens there.
Amy Sedaris also is in Chicken Run.
I don't want to be a pie.
Forever. We'll be on our deathbeds if we're lucky at like 80 years old and be like, I don't want to be a pie.
And I mean, I feel bad. I mean, she's trying hard. Even like when they were making fun of her, you could see her trying to like hide a little and try to pretend like she didn't hear them when they look over at her. But this offer for drugs, it works out, right? So because now like Poppy, seemingly like the leader of the group, is receptive to it and will be accepting of these drugs.
I do also, like, we didn't mention it, but when she's talking to the girls before that, trying to find the first way to get them to like her after the cockfight thing, she just points to her crotch and says, "Don't you hate when you get gas trapped in this region here?" And all the high school girls are like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" It's so good.
It's what she knows.
That makes more sense. That's better than cockfighting.
Also, just the idea that she's offering to make the drugs. Like, not just, I can get you drugs. It's,
Yeah, I can make you.
I can make drugs.
What's even weirder is, wouldn't the first thing you could do because of her age be like, yo, I'll buy you beer?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Again,
It's
going
easier
back
to
to
It's
what
like,
much easier than making whatever the fuck she makes, the gloop
Like,
or the glop.
yeah, I'll get a keg and a handle of Jim Beam. Let's do this shit. It was so much easier for 17-year-old girls.
I mean, I guess to look back at it, right? And we keep saying just buy them beer, buy them beer. But there's also this, like, she's having trouble getting people to go to her party, and she could have just spread the
There
word.
will
that
be beer.
There'll
Yeah,
be beer at
there
the
will
party.
be beer at my party. There will be
And
booze
you will
at my
get
party.
all
Let's
the
hang
high
out.
school kids to show up to your party. Yeah. So now after they agree that she will be making some drugs for this girl, we get to the next scene, which is her at her house. And she's talking to her father. And this was something that I forgot about the show. Her father is just like in this like petrified state at all times. He looks like he's like frozen.
That's funny. 'Cause that's the main thing I remember from the show.
Same, yeah. It's a thing
I
that's
didn't
like
remember
the
that at
most.
all. It
I
caught me
didn't remember
completely
it
off
either.
guard.
You see him in the intro, and when they showed him, it came back to me. But it was just, I didn't really remember any details about the show until we covered it. And to see that and how extreme it is and how like just insane him just being in that like frozen state, but they act, the idea is that it's not addressed, and in their world, it's almost like he's not frozen. It's like we see him like not moving, but there's like things that are happening where he's grabbing the remote or
When he gives the
stopping
dollar.
boat. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
$2 in his hand. The here's your $2 scene.
Or he grabs his shirt.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we never see him moving. You know, but somehow he is moving, and like, I don't know. It's hard to describe if you haven't seen it.
See, it's confusing. I would have preferred he never moves, and they're just trying to deal with the fact that he's stiff as a board, maybe dead.
I don't know.
And
I
in
kind of
denial
like
or
that he
something.
does things like pulls money out and everything. There's a scene later where he's clearly looking up sexually at a girl dancing, like a teenage girl, that I think is
Yeah,
like the
it's-
funniest thing. That actor too, Robert Gari, he was a painter. He only has like 6 credits total in his entire acting career, and one of them is that weird Ryan Gosling neo-Nazi movie, The Believer. Do you guys ever see that?
No.
No.
It's like Ryan Gosling is a Nazi skinhead who wants to blow up a synagogue that he decides he doesn't want to, but like it goes all afoul. It's like a really weird movie from like, I don't know, the early 2000s.
I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
At the remember Superstar Video in Winthrop, at the time, the girl I was dating, we used to like every Friday, like you go and like rent a few movies, right? Like hang out for a while. And like that was like a new movie, and Ryan Gosling was like, you know, the hot babes. We're like, oh, we should watch this new Ryan Gosling movie. And Ryan Gosling is just like, Sig Heil. You're like, holy shit, I did not expect this movie to be what it is.
Like a fine wine, he only gets better with age.
He does get better with age. And luckily he doesn't, you know, be a Nazi anymore, I guess, right? I hope. I don't know.
In the Barbie movie, he's very blonde, blue-eyed,
Oh,
because he's Ken.
This is also when we meet the brother Derek that we had heard about earlier, because apparently Mr. Jellyneck thinks he's a beautiful human. I liked when Derek said to her, like, they were talking about the party. He says, oh, I heard Anne's coming to the party. And she's like, really? Anne who? He goes, Anne Visible.
another laugh out loud moment.
It's like, no
Yeah,
one's
that
coming to
was
your
funny.
party, plug.
Now, what's his age supposed to be? Is he like... That's what
A
I
senior?
couldn't figure out.
He's supposed to be high school aged, I guess. But it's weird because the dynamic isn't that she's in her 40s and he's like 20 years her junior. They act like they are close in age. Like,
Yeah.
and they would have been going through high school together for the first time. But also, it's tough because we're breaking down a show that like very little logic. We just talked about how the father is like basically a petrified statue that somehow is able to like do things without us noticing. So it's tough to like find logic in things. But yeah, the way
Yeah.
that they're playing these characters, the age gap doesn't make sense. It's almost like, even though she is 46 or whatever, it's,
Well, it's her stepbrother.
yeah, but they're playing it as if they are similar in age.
Because they're in high school together. Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it though. Being step means they're just kind of,
Now, is it stepbrother or half-brother?
Step.
Because I know that's different moms.
It's different mom and the
That would
same
be
dad.
stepbrother.
no, I think it's half. I think they share a father.
No, they call him stepbrother.
So I had read this. They incorrectly call him stepbrother.
Okay, so they're actually half siblings.
because they do share the father.
Oh, okay, so she never gets stuck in the washing machine then.
Well,
Mm,
if then it's even
If they were
more
steps,
wrong.
they would have. That's
Yeah.
if the internet is to have me believe anything nowadays. If you have a step sibling, you will at least once get stuck under a bed or in a dryer.
In the context of this show, that would cover so many genres. It's the step stuff, the old lady, the
It
guilt.
basically covers every kind of thing anyone on this podcast would want to watch.
As they're arguing, there's a point where Jerry calls him a stupid blood fart.
That's another one. I was like, did she just say that?
My favorite part of that too is when the mom yells at him. He goes, "Well, he is," which is the best response to that.
The mom or her stepmom comes in and she does suggest to Jerry that, like, why don't you and Derek co-host the party? Be like basically insinuating like Derek has some friends, so maybe if you guys are both hosting, like, people will show up, which I actually thought was sound advice.
That occurred to me before she even said it, and I didn't think the show would use real logic, but
Yeah.
it does.
Like, where'd you sneak something normal in here?
I watched The Faculty not that long ago,
Great movie.
which I think
Saw
we
that
all saw in the theater together. Most of us in the theater together. But there's a scene in that movie too, which I think is the same year as this, where one of the girls calls one of the guys a blood fart. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, two things in 1999 did that. I've never heard anybody in real life say that, though.
Blood fart?
Like, we'll call somebody that. I mean, like, I've heard the term, sure, but, like, never been, like, in a huge fight with somebody who's like, fuck you, you blood fart. Like, that wasn't, like, ever a thing that was said, but if you watched this and The Faculty back to back.
I could go as far as to say I don't know if I've heard the term. Yeah.
I don't even remember it in The Faculty, which I've seen a million times.
I mean, like, I guess I've heard the term because I watched this in The Faculty recently. I don't remember hearing it. I mean, I don't have, like, a Rolodex where it's like, yes, I do recall hearing that 20 years
Who
ago.
says it in The Faculty?
The girl who's, has, like, the lesbian shield.
Oh, the chick that was in everything in that era.
Yeah, where
What's her
she's like,
name?
I'm not a lesbian, I just have a lesbian shield, so guys don't hit on me. I didn't mean that in, like, a weird way that she says those terms. I watched it, like, I don't know, a couple months ago. It was on, like, it's streaming somewhere.
Yeah, she was in the American version of The Grudge and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, she's like,
Then she just
there's
disappeared.
a lot of people in that movie.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett. What's the guy that plays Mr. Furlong? Was it the Daily Show host guy?
Yeah, Jon Stewart, right?
Jon
Jon
Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah.
Was not coming to me.
Wasn't are you talking about? Is it Katie Holmes? You guys are talking about?
No.
No, it's the girl who's like the gothy girl in it. It's better. I mean, like, again, I watched it long ago, but like, that's not a movie that sticks in your brain either. It's just like a
Of
background
all the
No.
weird tangents we get into, this is like one of those like doesn't.
You'd
Doesn't
know her if
matter.
you saw her. She was in like everything in the 2000s.
very
and then
big
just
in that
disappeared.
time. Yeah.
But never like a star.
Well, anyways, to move forward, the next scene, Jerry's in her room, and this is when she's making the glint, and also talking to her mom. Her mom is in an urn, but she kind of like opens up the urn to talk to her. Like she has to talk directly to the ashes, which is strange instead of just like to the urn.
Which is weird because if you ever seen ashes, like if you see them in real life like that too, it's like, it's a weird thing. You don't want to talk to it.
Right.
First of all, we all know if you open an urn, there's a flashlight in there and it shoots light at you.
And then a purple version of you comes out of nowhere. You have to fight him. Wearing a mask for some reason.
Also, so this glint, I was trying to remember what went into it, but
It's all household products. The entire thing is household chemicals.
and it basically was like when you teach kids how to make like slime out of glue. It's essentially what she was doing.
Yeah. It looks like gack.
Isn't that like a drug term too?
Gack?
Yeah.
No, it's a fun Nickelodeon toy.
Yeah, you can definitely get gacked on Coke, but you don't call Coke gack. I mean, maybe you do now. I don't know. At the time, when I knew about people doing Coke back then, I never heard them call it gack.
Just funny the idea of like that's when you want to check in with mom, like, hey, trying to make cool with the other kids in school, so I'm making them all some drugs.
I love that though, because you don't know what her mom was like, and maybe her mom was like just like her and would have
Right.
gone down with it, you know? Also, not to harp on the blood fart thing too, though, but she like is talking about like her life with her mom there, and she's like, I'd wake up with blood on my ass and we'd get high. You're like, why does this keep happening?
Yeah, what's happening?
And now we're like back at the school, and Poppy's like, all right, well, so are you all talk or what? And then she's like, takes this bag of glint out. And again, it's like a blue slime type thing. It's not it's not the kind of drugs I was expecting to see.
Do you know what it looks like? Do you ever like at like a garage or like a job site or whatever where like there's like industrial cleaner where you like pull your hand and you pull like a big chunk of it's usually like orange. Sometimes you can use it without water. Nick,
it's
you know what I'm
always in
talking about, right?
concentrate. You have to add water to it.
Yeah, like it's like in a tub and you grab it and you add
Yeah.
water to it after. But that's what it looks like to me. It's like just so concentrated and so thick.
When she was explaining what the glint was to her, you know, and going by like its other street names, she was like, you just rub it on your lips. She was holding the bag like over her crotch, and I thought that was intentional.
That was intentional.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I thought
okay.
the same
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like I thought when Poppy goes to do some of this glint and like smears it on her face, I thought she was gonna correct her and be like, no, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
And then the next Jerri thing she says too is about like the other lips, because she says, I used to rub it on me liberally when I worked the donkey show in Tijuana. So like they're really hammering it. It's kind of crazy too. Like I know the world is getting more like it's not the same as it was in 1999, but like I probably didn't pick up on a lot of this back then, and now you're like, this is kind of fucking out there and wild for the time. It's pretty impressive.
Wasn't there another reference to a donkey show around that time? Like that was
Clerks 2.
yes.
That was way later.
That
That was
Yeah.
like
Yeah, a lot.
2006-ish though, I think, yeah. I miss my donkey.
I mean, listen, they're not the first ones to address donkey show either. Like donkey shows were
Yeah, donkey show is like, yeah, a cultural thing.
it's always a joke, but yeah.
What was it
it's-
with Tom Hanks? Was it Bachelor Party? Makes
Yes.
the donkey
Yeah, that's like
show
84.
famous.
Yeah. When Tom Hanks is gonna marry Tawny Katane. What a weird movie.
One of the sketch comedy shows brought up to it might have even been like Nick Swartzen's show that was on Comedy Central, but that was way later. But yeah, in any event,
Oh, the show that brought us Trust Fund Cat, Wheelchair Kitty, one of the funniest sketches of all time.
and Gay Robot.
And K-Robot.
And then we get to the gym, and now Poppy's like on glint.
the way that they shoot it is so weird.
They make you look. It's kind of like you're like a sweaty zombie. Like
It's the character in any zombie movie that gets bit and is slowly turning, but they
Yeah.
haven't gone full zombie yet.
You never go full zombie. But they shoot her, though. She's perfectly shot in between two archery targets. And they hold on her. So, like, my brain was like, oh, she's going to get shot with an arrow because they're doing this in gym class and she's not going to be able to react to move. And then, like, that was just a cool shot. They just don't do anything with it. But it looks really good.
I wish we had archery in gym class.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of cool stuff. Like, I sometimes you see people that are like, oh, yeah, like, we'd go to, like, the pools. Like, the school had a pool and all that stuff. You're like, there's no way that anybody, like, our town would ever have the money to have, like, a public, like, a private pool we could swim in or whatever.
Our only treat was Giddy Up for Gaga.
I did love Giddy Up for Gaga. And we did have the ice hockey rink, though, that we could go in.
yeah, but it was like for a few days a year in middle school or whatever.
And they never Zamboni'd it first, too, so you just, like,
Yeah.
trip a bunch because there's a bunch of chunks taken out of the ice. Because, like, the over 40 hockey league had just played. And you're like, why are we doing this?
So they're about to do like a rope climb, and I don't know, is it the glint that made her so good at it? She just like got up that rope in like seconds flat.
Probably.
Ferg, you made me laugh earlier because you were talking about the, like, modern horror movies. She climbs this rope the way every ghost or zombie moves in a modern horror movie now. Where they do, like, the
It's
quick
true.
cuts and they go, like, like, all of a sudden. Like, the things I hated about the new It movie where I was like, this is fun. And then, like, that shit would happen. You'd be like, I fucking hate that.
I hate that about the new It movie, too, because it makes
Yeah,
me think of 2000s horror. That was so
Yeah.
popular in the early 2000s. Everything did the quick motion shit.
Yeah, it never made you jump. It just made you go, like, oh, I paid
Oh, that's
$7.50 to
stupid.
watch this. Yeah, bummer.
They're like the Putty Patrol. The gym teacher is wondering how Poppy was able to do that so easily. And she's looking at her and she's like, is something wrong with you? And she's like, I'm a bumblebee. Like, what? I'm a bee and I have to get back to the hive. And then she just like, we don't see it. We see her run off camera, but apparently she tries to dive into a keyhole in a door, which puts her into a coma.
I'm like, I hate to say I told you so, but there is no keyhole. That was the Hives joke. All right, I'll keep going. Never mind. I'll mute myself. Sorry.
Oh, I get it.
You gave him a courtesy laugh, but Viking and Viking got nothing? Got
No.
nothing at all?
Sorry, that got nothing. Yeah. People like the Hives.
Guys fucking
Nobody
suck.
liked that joke.
Pieces of shit. So now we're in front of Principal Blackman's office. Now, I mentioned this earlier. Jerri Blank's
Honest
last name
black man.
was because they left it blank on the script. The script also had it listed that the principal would be a black man. And eventually they just went with, okay, we're just going to call him Principal Blackman.
And Onyx is also black.
Yes, his full name is Principal Onyx Blackman.
I didn't know that.
This actor, Greg Hollimon, two amazing things about this dude. He grew up with and was friends with Shabba-Doo from Breakin'. If you've ever seen any movie from the 80s where there's a guy who looks sort of like he's a cowboy and a punk and he's breakdancing, that's Shabba-Doo. He was a big deal in the 80s. But his one credit that I saw and made me laugh so hard, do you know in The Fugitive, when Harrison Ford is like, he worked his way back into working at the hospital because he's trying to figure out all the stuff about the one-armed man, and is it Juliet Nichols, the actress, who's like, hey, can you help me with this guy or whatever? A orderly comes flying down the hallway on roller skates, grabs a chart, does like a 360 and flies away. And I always thought it was the funniest thing where I was like, how busy is this hospital that there's an orderly who's like flipping around on roller skates, giving charts all the time. That's Onyx Blackman. The principal from this show is the guy who does that. I watched The Fugitive like a month ago and like made note to my wife, was like, you know what always makes me laugh in this movie? The guy on the roller skates. So the fact that he's the roller skate guy for The Fugitive and was friends with Shabba-Doo and is Principal Blackman, Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, put him up there.
But it's all one guy, so it would just be for him.
Well, 3 him.
And then the singer of him.
No, I would not put him on my Mount Rushmore. Him and his stupid logo and his stupid Bam Margera.
I'm with you, Joe.
Joe's really isolating a lot of listeners this episode.
Oh, I don't think I'm isolating a lot of listeners by saying that him is not a good band or that nobody cares about Bam Margera in 2023. Look, I hope the guy doesn't die, but I don't care about him doing stuff, you know?
Okay, well, quick tangent before we get back into it. I will just say this. I don't listen to a ton of him these days, but I think they are a very good band. And you got to remember, like, Bam Margera just kind of stole all their stuff because he was a big fan. They weren't the Bam Margera band. He just happened to really like them and steal their logo and use all their shit.
Anyway, Gordo, you'll appreciate this. Anybody who's listening to this musician who knows about him, they, like, took their pick slides and tracked them, like, 37 times on a song. That is the most egregious thing to listen to ever. I hate that band.
Oh, I hate when people take the pick slides and do that.
That's why I said it's a very specific thing. You'd have to be somebody who's really nerdy about music to understand that.
I'm just trying to relate to you.
That
Well, I
sounds
appreciate it.
annoying.
Joe, just be his friend.
I love you, Ferg. Fuck Bam. I like that Dr. Phil keeps reaching out to Bam, too. Like, Dr. Phil keeps trying to be like, I'll help you, and Hulk Hogan keeps being like, R.I.P., brother. It's like the funniest fucking circle of
the Hulk
celebrity.
Hogan thing is from way before.
I know, but it's still so funny.
That was basically when Ryan Dunn died, and Hogan just thought it was the wrong dude. He's like, damn, Bam.
There's like a million like rise and fall of Bam Margera videos on YouTube. I've watched like all of them because I like to see the fall.
This is a very like dark episode. This is like exposing nothing but like all our worst qualities. But anyways, Jerry's in the principal's office and he's basically like kind of questioning her about the whole situation with Poppy and like where she got her drugs from. And I'm just trying to remember like some of the other details that went along with the scene.
Well, for some reason, the principal like says like, I know you guys were close. Like, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
I thought at first he was fishing for information.
No, but it seems like he's not. She feels guilty, but he doesn't think it's her. So like, I don't know why she's in the office, but he doesn't seem to be accusing her.
Oh, because he says that he's talking to every student because
did you say that?
for like grief
Yeah, he's talking to
counseling.
every single student. That's why she feels guilty, because he's like, I know you wouldn't know anything because you two were close, and that's why she feels more guilty, because he like lays that guilt trip on her.
He also mentions that the parents are deeply distraught and then like presses a button and a curtain
Yeah.
moves and they're just like behind him, just crying behind a curtain. Like,
That's
very
so much
strange.
more dark than Bam Margera. And more enjoyable.
Like then like after when she says she doesn't know anything, he just presses the button again and
the curtain
banishes the
closes.
parents behind the curtain again.
Just hanging out at the parents are hanging out at the school all day. It's very depressing.
But again, I don't understand why he thinks that Jerri and her were close.
Right, because
Yeah.
they only friendly talked one day.
What is the third day of school?
That would be the fourth.
That would be the fourth. But she only lived through 3. No, 4. She lived through 4. And it says the 5th, right? Because the 4th would have been the 3rd day was talking to the teacher. And then she brought the drugs in on the 4th day. So we're on day 5. So this is a Friday. It's a weekend. Guys, upside. It's not depressing anymore. It's a Friday.
TGIF.
Imagine this show on TGIF. Urkel takes some glint and it goes poorly. Laura goes to jail. Like, what a fucking great episode.
There was that episode when Urkel gets drunk and falls off the roof.
Got any glint? Got any Satan's hair lip? Got any Carl Winslow's hair lip? Okay, guys, that's clearly our comedy troupe's name, Carl Winslow's hair lip. We'll be touring the country in no time.
So now we're back at Jerri's house, and her whole family's having dinner when she shows up. And then the conversation comes up about Poppy and how Derek mentions that she recently OD'd and now she's in a coma. And her stepmom's like, oh, what a shame, you know. She's like, you know, if she doesn't pull through, I'll have the Widows League send over some casseroles. It's like, this is just, there's just like a band of widows who are just like ready for event planning.
Well, I think with that is, like, you see the dad's old and catatonic. They're all just a group of women that go with older men, hoping they'll die soon and they can collect on their money.
They collect on their ziti. It's like, the beauty is when he dies, we'll get so many baked zitis.
But with the dad, I still don't think that's like what they're going with him. Like, I think it's because it's unaddressed that he doesn't move.
No,
like,
it's not that. It's just that I mean, like, that's a thing. Like, you see it in like a bunch of shows, right? It's a very Italian thing, right? I think we all have witnessed this. Like, somebody in the family passes away, and the first thing you do is you bring food over, right?
Oh,
like,
well, yes.
Why
Yeah.
are you wearing a bib?
oh, it's a lobster bib. Because in the scene, they're all eating lobster, and Jerri's dad is just like, I bought 50 lobster bibs recently.
Joe loves visual gags on our audio podcast. This is the second one he's done today.
This is trying to make you guys laugh. It's not.
Yeah.
I didn't address it myself. If I was trying to address myself, I'd be like, hey, take a video of me in my lobster bib. It was just to make you guys laugh. I watched Gordo track it the whole time, though, and watched the confusion in his eyes the whole time, being like, what is he doing?
So not for this show, you bought 50 lobster bibs.
Yeah. Let's go
Yeah.
back to that.
I'm working on a project.
Oh, and just to elaborate, Joe, deathly allergic to shellfish.
Definitely. My throat would close immediately.
So he bought all these lobster bibs with the intention of never eating lobster.
It's a long story. If any of our fans out here are big fans of the band The Undertones, let me know, and I'll send them a lobster bib. I'm working on a new merch product.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joey Deschanel.
Yeah, you're so quirky with your lobster bibs.
I bought 50 lobster bibs.
This is if you knew the
You wouldn't know, they're not a very popular band, but
they're a very popular band. They're one of the greatest songs of all time. I fucking hate you guys so much.
Stop giving.
30 years of nightmare friendship.
so anyways, yeah, back at dinner, like all this stuff that's going on here, they're just casually talking about it because obviously the girl at school ODing and being in a coma is going to be a big topic. But again, Jerri's so like consumed with guilt that anytime it comes up, she gets very defensive. And she's saying like, I don't even know her. And keyholes are a menace. And she like runs off. And that's the whole, you know.
I feel like her lifetime of crime and drugs, she'd be more used to that kind of thing and be better at hiding it.
Right, she'd be under scrutiny a lot of times.
But I think now is then she wasn't trying to have a fresh start. Now
Yeah.
she's trying to like have a do-over so she doesn't want to ruin it.
No, I get that. I just think she'd be better at the whole routine.
She'd be
of hiding it.
better under pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't she reference that something would violate her probation? So she's currently actively on probation
She did,
right
yes.
See, and they could have used that. That could have been why she had to go back to school. The judge ordered it, or blah, blah, blah. Just give
Yeah.
me something.
I know that it bothers you, but I wouldn't be as hung up on this detail as you are. It's a
bothers
big
me.
deal, but it's one of those things that could have been addressed in a later episode for all we
She's
knew.
an
But yeah.
adult in high school. Just give me any reason at all, any goofy sitcom reason, and I would be
I know,
fine with
because
it.
it's usually a throwaway line, so I get it. Yeah, that whole "don't rub your feces on the lampshade." Is that just her like her default response to when
Her
she's
quirk.
in panic. Like, that's just something she does.
Like, can she just produce feces?
She's
Yeah,
like
right? I
mean,
unbuckling
most
her
can.
belt, getting ready to do it. It was fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah.
So she runs to her room, and now when you see her inside, she's talking to her turtle again, who's on the bed with her.
He's
And I
under
like
the
how
pillow.
she just
Yeah,
starts.
with hate.
Yeah, she just starts though right off the bat by saying, "First of all, I want to reiterate that I would die if anything ever happened to you." And then she gets into the story. So again, it's projecting, but I think it is very funny because you know something's going to happen later on.
Did anybody else think that when she first lifted up the pillow and the turtle was there, that he shit everywhere and that it wasn't hay?
No, I didn't
Because
really
all
think
you
about
No.
it.
see is like green all around the turtle, and I was like,
Do
oh,
turtles shit
definitely
green?
shit. I don't know.
Only the Ninja Turtles, because they're radioactive.
They that's the ooze.
4 baby turtles.
She does have to worry about salmonella, though.
Yeah,
You can get salmonella from a turtle?
Yeah.
yeah.
I did not know that.
I have had a turtle. Well, my mom, my brother, technically, has had a turtle for, I think it's 28 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, they live long.
Or no, probably about 25 years old. His name is Tommy after Tommy the Rugrat to date it.
Wow.
Well, that thing just won't die, huh?
No, he will not.
No, I mean they live to be like 100 if you take care of them. They're like parrots.
Yeah, parrots and birds like that are usually in people's wills because they live so much longer than the people.
Yeah, they live like 100+ years.
Except for
Parrots
Frankie Coco Beware's bird, who died in a house fire when the neighbors said they could hear the bird
Oh, come
screaming.
on.
Which
Oh,
breaks
that's
my heart
awful.
so
This
much.
episode is so dark.
Or what was the bird, Ferg, in Trailer Park Boys Taco?
Oh, I forget.
He got mulched in an air conditioning fan blade.
Okay. Well,
This is a dark fucking episode.
so now in the next scene, well, talking about dark, now we're, Jerri goes to the hospital and she's in Poppy's room. It's after hours, like after visiting hours, she sneaks in with the intention to pull the plug on her because if she comes to again, then people might find out what happened, and that's her fear. So first there's the shot of her holding up like the plug and she like, unplugs it. And you just hear someone from the next side over go, "Oh my dear God, my heart." And she like plugs it back in.
And then goes and apologizes too. Like it's happened before where she's
Yeah.
like, whoops.
And then she plugs it back in and then goes to pick up the correct cord. And then she's like struggling to like decide if she really wants to do this or not. And that's when an orderly enters the room. He's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, I'm just, holding a vigil." And he goes, "Oh, you must be her uncle." And then the orderly just casually like unplugs everything. It's like, "Wait, what are you doing? Oh, you didn't hear? Poppy passed away about an hour ago. Sorry for your loss." And leaves.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this at all.
Me too.
Yeah, it was different.
Do you think if you were the guy too who's like, "Oh my God, my heart," he'd be like, "Wait, that girl's been dead next to me for a whole hour? That seems kind of fucking weird."
Gross.
And he's like, I was asking her questions. He's like, "She's really ignoring me. I think that girl's a bitch." She's like, she's been dead, man.
And now we get to the next scene in the gym, and the principal's there addressing everyone, and they're talking about, Poppy's death and how they're gonna do this memorial time capsule, which was like, it really had like little to nothing to do with Poppy. It had a good luck Poppy card, which is like, I guess the card they were gonna send to the hospital, and then they found out she died.
The one thing about her.
Yeah, and then other than that, it was like a T-shirt for the school, and then the principal takes a selfie with the Polaroid and just dumps that in there. Oh, he dumps the camera in there. He keeps the picture because he likes the picture of himself.
He has the whole camera in.
He goes on to say about how they don't know who supplied the glint, but they just assume that, whoever it is probably feeling an immense amount of guilt. That's when Jerri steps up and says, "Hey, I've got something to say."
Oh, before you say that, I think one of the funniest lines of this whole show is when he's doing his memorial speech where he's like, "Though we'll soon forget where we put the time capsule and sooner forget who Poppy was." Just like, It's so immediately dark about not giving a shit about this poor dead
And then
teenage girl.
it pans back over to the parents
To the
who
parents
are
who
grieving
are
even
there.
harder.
Yeah.
It's, again, it's, I don't know. This is it's a weird show, and it's a weird first episode story.
And those bleachers can kill you. It's dangerous in a school.
It's true. Jerri steps up, and now she's going to address everybody. And we think at this point that she's going to admit to what she did. But instead, in a very clever move on her part, she's been having a hard time getting anyone to go to her party, is now asking, hey, show of hands, who's going to be attending my Poppy Downs memorial party on Friday at my house?
Genius move.
Now everybody's going to be going. Everyone raises their hands. I did think that was extremely clever on her part. Evil, but clever.
She knows what she's doing. She's been around the block a few times.
I think this is starting to show the onion of Jerri.
Jerri Onion.
I meant,
Junion.
layers.
Junion.
See, I see what you're saying, but we've already seen the darker layer that she was about to murder a girl.
Yeah, she was going to murder her about 2 seconds earlier.
I mean, as the episode progresses, she's a sociopath.
Yeah, she's a bad person.
Yeah.
Also, it's never good when somebody who's like 46 is like, all I want is for high school teenagers to adore me and be my friend. Nothing good has ever come from that mentality.
When we see the actual party itself, it seems to be going well. Doesn't seem to be like a memorial party. It looks like kind of just a standard party.
And Mr. and Mrs. Downs are there as well again.
Yeah. Noblet's there, and he's like, Jerri, I wouldn't worry about those grades. This party is an A+.
Am I getting social grades instead of actual school grades? This is the scene too where you see Jerry's dad, who is like sexily looking up at a girl dance, like a teenage girl dancing in front of him.
There's also like all these different, they're cutting around the party, but it's kind of staying with Jerri most of the time. And she's also now using this opportunity to tell Poppy's parents about the final exchange that she had with her because they were such close friends. Says, they may never know who gave me these drugs, but at least it wasn't you, Jerri Blank, my new best friend.
Which sends him back into hysterics
They're
again.
crying again. Not the best thing to say to these poor people.
Also talking to Poppy's, well, not widow, because they were just boyfriend-girlfriend, but her now ex, and basically using this as an opportunity to take her boyfriend as well, and kind of goes in for the kiss, which he's not super receptive to, but...
Yeah, because she said that Poppy's last words were, please take care of my boyfriend physically.
Yeah,
It's like ... physically.
Again, so wrong because she's an adult and that is a child.
Also, the best part of that too is like she's saying that she's like, her last words were take care of you physically, and then she died. She says that's so happy.
And then a little later on at the party, there's this girl, Amber, and she's like, hey, Amber, how do you like the hot fruit? And she's like, it makes my lips numb. And that's when Jerri realizes, oh no, the bowl of hot fruit is the same bowl I used to make the glint. Which I guess means she didn't clean it before
Didn't
adding all that
wash
hot
the
fruit.
bowl?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's so potent that it like gets inside the porcelain.
It's too viscous.
It's very viscous.
Very strong glint. But now we're realizing that a bunch of people at the party are now on glint because I guess multiple people had some of the hot fruit.
You know, all those kids made fun of her for offering the hot fruit. And then what happens when they go to the party? A bunch of them eat the hot fruit. Shithead teenagers.
I mean, teenagers are just shitty people, though.
It's true.
Yeah, not known for their logic.
If you guys had to pick one hot fruit to eat out of a bowl, I'm taking the Gordo line here. You just had 2 bites of one really hot fruit alone in a bowl. What would you pick?
Easy, watermelon.
None, because I fucking hate any fruit hot.
You, Gordo, I think you picked the worst one.
Yeah.
Actually,
watermelon.
I know, right?
And he's like,
Love
easy,
watermelon.
easy watermelon.
Easy watermelon. I mean, I feel like I have to go apple. It's the only fruit that you really think about eating warm already.
Yeah, and even hot apple cider.
It's why I don't like apple pie, and I always get like the funny looks when I say that is because I don't like apples cooked. I'll eat an apple, like a green apple, like cold, but cooked, it's just gross.
I would say pineapple's also in the running because like grilled pineapple's really good.
That's a good
Oh, yeah,
one.
they
Yeah.
do that a lot.
That one's good, just not on pizza.
Hey, I'm gonna go with tomatoes because I love a good
Oh,
sauce.
shit.
Boom.
The
Ah,
curve.
Ferg just won this one.
There you go. Ferg's just
Pizza.
eating a bowl of warm tomatoes.
Yeah, he won.
Mm.
Well, Ferg is a big fan of fried green tomatoes. It makes sense this finally came out this way.
I hope he has a whole bowl of warm Tums next to him then.
Now I'm thinking the chewable Tums being warm, and it's really bumming me out.
Ugh.
Ew.
I don't like the chewable Tums.
all.
they're-
All Tums are chewable.
Like, I don't-
It's just redundant.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're all.
I guess they're all chewable, but I buy like the bottle of the chalky fruit flavored chewable ones.
I don't like the chalky ones. I kind of like the gummy ones that they have now.
Oh, I haven't tried the gummy ones.
The ones that are like Starbursts.
Yeah, like kind of like that. They're
Oh,
a little
I'm pro
softer than a
that.
Starburst.
I kind of like those chewy ones. I don't find them to be as effective as like the chalky ones, though.
I watch. Jay would just like pop Tums, if I'm not mistaken. Like you
I
get like
still
a
pop
Me
Tums.
too. I still do that.
yeah,
I
but
have
like
Tums in
as a
my
snack.
locker at work. I have Tums at home. I have Tums in my car. Not because I think it's a delicious candy, but because I have heartburn all the time.
You never know when heartburn's going to strike.
I swear by Tums, but when we went away for Mania, when we went to Texas, I learned how much more effective Pepto is than
Yeah,
Tums.
Pepto can do a lot too.
Pepto's more for the stomach. It just happens to treat the heartburn
I always thought
too,
Pepto's like
yeah.
a stomach thing.
It was instant. I got rid of my heartburn in a second.
I was going to say it depends on how long you have to wait. Like if you need it instantly, like Pepto is going to coat you, or Milk and Magnesia.
Pepto also makes it chewable, by the way, and it's one of the weirdest flavors you'll ever try.
It's like mint, right?
It's mint, but
It's
it's
like-
also like bubble gummy. It really throws
Yeah,
your
yeah,
brain
yeah. I
off.
know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Ooh, bubble yum.
It's not good. Also, like you can't enjoy the flavor of anything you're eating when you're like, I'm dying inside.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So now we get to a little later on in this party. Now that all these kids are on Glint, we see one of them just holding Shelly, the turtle. And Jerry's very nervous about that. It's like, hey, hand me that turtle. And he just like throws it over her, like kind of like the keep away type game, to another Glint kid. And now they're just like, they're going back and forth, tossing this turtle, over her. But it's getting closer and closer to the fan. And you see like the fan spinning around, and she keeps looking up at it. And every time they throw it, she's getting more and more nervous that the turtle's going to hit the fan.
They do good editing here too to make it build up the tension.
I mean, yeah, there was one where like it went up past the fan as the blade went by and back down again. Like it's getting close. And then finally, Shelly lands on the floor and nothing wrong's happened. And it's like, oh, thank God. And then someone just comes by with a golf club and just fucking swings and fucking just launches this turtle through the glass window or glass door.
Well, then he screams 4, and then Principal Blackman just goes, well, that was weird. Which is the best fucking button to that.
Well, because like, and then Jerry just like fucking runs right through the rest of like, cause the turtle broke the glass a little bit, but then she just storms right through it.
Yeah, she goes the rest of
chasing
the
after
plate
it.
glass.
It's
Yeah.
full Jason Voorhees through the door.
Yes. Or James Bond in Casino Royale, where he goes right through the drywall.
And now she's going, oh, Shelly, what have I done? What have I done? And then she's going, for reasons I'd rather not say, this is bitterly ironic. What a heavy price to pay for popularity. The Downs lost a child and I lost a turtle, because that's comparable. Which is a greater loss? I don't know.
And she's like, I don't know.
She says, I do know one thing. Come this Monday morning, everyone at the school will have a pity on me. So that's going to be worth something. So her brain, like, as much as she loved this turtle and kept saying how she would never be able to get on without it, the turtle fucking gets killed. And her instant reaction is, oh man, people are going to be, feeling sorry for me at school tomorrow. It's going to be great.
Because she's a sociopath.
She's a terrible person. Yes.
Oh, I mean, her like goodbye line where she's like, they never did find out who killed Poppy, so I guess justice was served. I think it's the funniest line in the whole episode, where you like get her sociopathy completely there.
And then from there, we get to this final scene where it's just Jerry in bed. She's talking to the camera for a little bit, saying, oh, well, with the exception of Shelly and Poppy Downs, everything turned out pretty okay. And this is still going back into that like after school special vibe that they're trying to go with. And she has like this little like closing monologue about, how she's learned some things. And I mean, she's learning bad lessons. And I guess that was kind of the treatment of the show, is she's supposed to learn a lesson every episode, but it's always going to be a bad one.
Okay, I can see that.
And then during this, she opens up her mother's urn again and she's talking to her mom and she's like, oh, I want you to meet Shelly. And her turtle's ashes are just in like an old pill bottle, and she just like opens it up.
I do love that when you cremate down a turtle, it lands in a pill bottle. Which is wild too, because do you guys ever, I don't know if anybody's on medication for anything all the time here, but I got medication recently and like I didn't realize what was going on. They gave me 3 months worth.
Oh yeah, I do the 3-month thing now. It's great.
It's the biggest bottle I've ever seen in my entire life, where I was like, I feel like embarrassed picking this up. We're like, oh.
Anything I take is I have a couple smaller pills, so even a 3-month supply is in kind of your standard pill size bottle.
Mine are big, and I have to take like 3 at a time, so it's a giant bottle of 90 of them, because I'm crazy.
So, yeah, she dumps her turtle's ashes to mix them in with her mom's. She's like, now don't you two stay up all night yakking all night. Like, so weird. Then she says goodnight, and that's the close of the show. It's very strange, and I guess, like, again, even when we're talking this stuff out, like, all these scenes are very crazy, but you do, I guess, have to keep in mind that it's a satirical show, and a lot of the tone and jokes are meant to be odd at times, because they're trying to fit an era that this show's not a part of.
Yeah, I think that the great point you brought up too is like she's going to learn a lesson, but it'll always be the wrong lesson or a bad lesson is what makes the satire so good about it being a after school special type of thing. I'm kind of bummed out too that they don't make those anymore. We kind of grew up at the very last gasp of them. Where like there would be kind of a couple, but they sort of relegated them to like sitcoms, right? Where like they would teach you lessons in a show like Saved by the Bell or Its Better Cousin, California Dreams. Like so you got that stuff after school. I don't know about that. But, like, we didn't have the movies, right? We didn't have, like, the crazy, like, The Day After Tomorrow or, like, The Day the Kid Took PCP and Fell Off the Flagpole. Like, that's, like, all these 80s movies they would just constantly pump out and it'd be like, ABC Movie of the Week. And they'd always put them on at, like, 4 in the afternoon so you could watch it after school or whatever. And we kind of, like, hit the end of that. They would just make, like, a really dark episode of, like, 90210 instead. Like, so this is kind of fun to see that.
It's because somewhere along the line they realize kids don't pay attention to this stuff, and when they do, they think it's funny. So they have to squeeze it into entertainment and disguise it as entertainment.
Right, and I think the genius of this show, too, though, is that, like, people like us, especially, like, why this show should work for us is that, like, people don't pay attention, but when they do, they're not going to take the right lesson. They're just going to make fun of it, which is, like, exactly what we just did and what the show just does, right? It's perfect.
So, yeah, I don't know if I have much else to mention about the show. Anything else you guys wanted to bring up about it?
I would love to see the movie again now, because I mean, like, I don't know if this is streaming anywhere. I really love this. It has to be, right? This is a pretty big show. I'd love to keep watching this.
Show, I believe, is available on Paramount Plus.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that seems to be where that stuff's going, the Viacom stuff. I would keep watching this. I would love to watch. The movie's a prequel, by the way. The movie came out like 5 or 6 years later and is a prequel. So that would be interesting to rewatch now, kind of with these eyes.
That's easier when you have her character playing older than she was, too. So that's kind of an easy thing to do.
Right.
I believe when I read, when they were doing some of her wardrobe and stuff, some of the quotes was, at one point she told the makeup artist or the wardrobe people that she wanted to look like a golfer. And also that she described the character as she wanted to look like someone who owned a snake.
That's kind of perfect.
I get the golfer thing. I don't get the snake part.
I don't know. I used to practice in a practice space that one of the people who owned it, they must have lived there too, but one of the rooms was in the basement and there was a little closet in there where the snake lived. That it was like a terrifying pay by the hour practice space. He went down to this basement and there was like a 50-foot snake that just like lived in this closet that you hoped didn't like learn how to unlock a door while you were just trying to play music. And I feel like Jerri Blank would have worked there. It kind of tracks for me.
That's horrifying.
Oh yeah, that snake is definitely dead now.
I hope it's still there though, so if you open that door, it's just a skeleton of a snake.
Oh. Or just a really hungry snake, because that was like 2010. It's like, I haven't eaten in 13 years.
I haven't eaten in weeks.
I'm really sad and lonely.
So at this point, we might as well close it out with the green light or cancel. So I'm going to go in the order that I see you guys in. Nick, starting with you.
I really am not sure about this one. It's really weird, and that's kind of, I don't know. I have like this thing. It's just like if you're too like eccentrically weird, it turns me off, and I don't really know why. But this show I think is funny enough up against that it's gonna get the green light. Because the things that did make me laugh, like, really made me laugh. It was really, it's a strange show. Like, just, I agree with Ferg. I don't like that they don't give you any kind of explanation as to why she's doing what she's doing, but I guess you kind of really don't need it either. She's great. She plays this character really well, and I guess I do. I just want to see more of her ridiculousness because it is intriguing enough to want to come back for more. But like I said, it's a tough one. It's a little too weird for me, but not enough to cancel it. So it's a green light.
Gordo.
This is a cancel. I didn't like the show when it was on. I didn't really like it outside of like the father. I thought the father bits were really, really funny. Other than that, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the I don't know. It's just, it rubbed me the wrong way the entire time through. It went quick, so it's not like typically like when I cancel it, it's like I stop and I'm like, oh my God, hurry up. Like it's kept me watching it, but I just didn't like it and I don't quite know why. I think maybe it just was a little weird and it was a little like too out there for me. I don't know, but I know I didn't like it. So cancel for me.
Joe.
Yeah, I really like this show. It's just a very weird style of humor. I think it's kind of interesting to think of some of the people who came out of this and what they ended up doing, right? And the people behind it and what their background was before this. And I think it's interesting, too. I mean, this was Comedy Central's first ever scripted show. So we got Detroiters and, all of these shows later on sort of because of this, which is pretty interesting. And I like the idea that a network took a chance on something so insanely weird. I really enjoy this type of humor. I get that it's not for everybody, but I think there are so many genuine laughs in this because half the time you're like, what the fuck is going on? It's still enjoyable all these years later. It's a green light for me.
Ferg.
I'm a little conflicted because I did thoroughly enjoy the jokes in this show, but I feel as that type of humor a little goes a long way. And I almost feel like this style would have worked better at like SNL skits that they went through over time. Or even if you broke, almost like how Beavis and Butthead was like 2 episodes in a half-hour block. Like, it was just too much all at once. I'm actually going to lean towards cancel just because I was kind of over it by the end. And I was still laughing at the jokes, but I was no longer really enjoying myself. If that makes any sense. So yeah, cancel.
Oh, well, yeah, that puts me in a tiebreaker situation. And I don't know, when I was watching the show, I found myself doing like one key thing that's never good. And that was checking the time over and over and over again. There were some funny parts, but I felt like I had said this to you guys privately before we started, that it was not the tone that I remembered, all these years later. And it was this was a very slow, kind of dragged out thing to me. It's the style of the show, and I know it's intentional. Everything just felt so slow, and the jokes were dry. Even like the stuff that's wacky is done in a very like monotone way. And I just kept looking at the time. I don't know. It just didn't quite work for me. So for that reason, I got to cancel it as well. So with that in mind, that is only 2 out of 5. So sorry to Strangers with Candy. You do not live on to see episode 2 with us.
Now Joe's friend's going to kill us.
Yeah, someone's not going to be happy with a couple of you guys. A few of you guys.
So apparently this is going to be the last show for 3 of us. So stay tuned next week for the first of our Halloween month. Thank you for listening to for the back to school month that we just concluded. But yes, for the Halloween month, apparently it'll only be Joe and Nick moving forward because one of Joe's friends is going to murder us all brutally.
Yeah, but isn't that perfect for Halloween?
How fitting.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Yeah,
for
that's
Halloween.
fitting.
So maybe we will return as ghosts for our Halloween month, and that will be our farewell. But yeah, with that being said, thanks everybody for listening. Again, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to everywhere where you can listen to us. All our social medias, again, S1E1pod on Instagram and what was formerly known as Twitter, now X. Hit us up, talk to us there. We like to interact with all of you guys. Hear your stories. We want to know the shows you want us to cover, how you found us is definitely big on us. I love finding out how you guys found us. So, hit us up, talk to us. we'll get back to you for sure. But until then, we'll catch you again next week with another new episode. Thanks again. Goodbye.
I think we got the best modern CGI ghosts in a heart. No, we didn't.
Boo.
Ooh.
That's what they say. Boo.
Ooh.
I was saying boo words.
Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on?
Ooh.